I'm happy to be here in this first SUNERGY Industrial Webinar. My name is Anastasios. I'm the Secretary General of CO2 Value Europe. I will take a step, let's say, back or a step higher into describing a little bit the EU context and how the carbon capture and utilization industry can develop within this context. So for those who don't know us, we are a European association dedicated to CO2 utilization. We represent the CCU community in Europe, and we bring partners together from the entire value chain. So thinking of the CO2 valorization chain from the upstream side, so where the CO2 is coming from, either from point sources or directly from the air. The use of renewable energy sources, the use of raw materials sometimes, and waste as an input to transform this into an array of marketable products, everyday life products like chemicals, fuels, or construction materials or different types of materials, and to the downstream of distributing them to the market. We are a quite diverse association. We have multinational companies inside that are mainly CO2 emitters. We have providers of CO2 conversion technology. We have research institutions inside and universities, and also regional clusters. So this is what we consider a strength, but also a challenge in consolidating different opinions. And what we believe, and this is our vision, is that CCU should have the place it merits in the armory that we have of fighting against climate change. So it's not the only solution. It has to be a complementary solution close to increasing process efficiency and energy efficiency, the expansion of the renewable energy capacity, electrification where it makes sense, biomass under sustainability conditions, hydrogen, of course, also CCS. So they are all components of a sustainable economy, and CCU has its place in there. And we work under three main themes that can be achieved through CCU. The first one is evidently contributing to the fight against climate mitigation, and achieving the ambitious goals that are now into play with 55 emission reductions by 2030 and climate neutrality by 2050. So processes that can lead to net reduction of global CO2 emissions, in some CCU processes even going up to negative emissions. And see this benefit in various economic sectors. We're talking about transport today mainly, but it's also about the process industry. It's even about the domestic sector through heating, for example, or the construction sector with materials. The second part, and I'm glad that we also touched upon it. My previous co-speakers also did this. We need to find an alternative carbon source. There are not many options for that. We have biomass, we have recycled plastics, and then we have CO2. And for us, the vision is that CO2 becomes a commodity at some point in the future, and not a nuisance, not a problem. And that's why we also are not talking about decarbonization. So the term decarbonization doesn't make much sense when we're talking about still in CO2. That's why we're talking about defossilization of the different sectors that I've mentioned above. And the third pillar is the contribution to the development of circular systems, not only by reusing CO2, but also by reusing waste fractions that can be added to the process of CO2 conversion, and thereby creating value from waste in principle. So carbon capture and utilization has gained a lot of attention the last couple of years in specialized news. You see it in general public news. So it is good that it is discussed more. It is taking more of attention, and at the same time, it is also studied more from a scientific point of view. So there are studies coming out explaining the potential of CCU for emission reduction. Studies, LCA studies coming out showing the positive aspects of CCU and or the negative aspects when LCA is not proven to be positive. And this is good. Some studies are more optimistic, some other are more pessimistic. But the good thing is that it is a process that can only lead to realizing its potential when there is a scientific evidence base behind it. And it's also you see here some examples with methanol production from the port of Antwerp, the Norsk e-fuel with jet fuel production in Norway, the North CCU hub also in Ghent with the production of methanol for the chemical industry, the Carbstone with production of mineralization products that can be used as construction materials. You've seen in the slide of Jan also the Jupiter 1000 process project for the power to gas. So these are projects that are other planned the technology of processes, and in complement to that, there are a lot of projects that are either on a lower TRL or at a higher TRL. You can see here an example of from an extract of our database about installations in Europe that plan to have a TRL of 6 to 8 until 2022. So which means that there is a lot of there is a wave of projects as we speak that are there to prove the technical, economic, and environmental viability, so the sustainability of the whole CCU concept. And there is also the corresponding support at EU level, but also at national level. I'm citing here some examples. For example, the Strategic Energy Technology Plan, which has a priority among other priorities for the deployment of clean energy technologies. One of them is the action on CCU and CCS. We are involved in that, and we are in an implementation plan of how to bring CCU technologies at a more accelerated deployment. We have the last calls of the Horizon 2020, and namely the European Green Deal, with a major call on closing the industrial carbon cycle and using catalytic routes for alternative products to fossil products. We have the Horizon Europe on the making as we speak, and we can see in different clusters, in cluster 4 or in cluster 5 on energy, mobility, and climate, different wordings, different phrases that show that CCU has its place in the following funding mechanism, and there we strongly support that it can play within Horizon Europe, and we hope to see SUNERGY play a big role and grow within Horizon Europe. And we have also mechanisms at higher TRL level, pre-commercial, like the Innovation Fund, which is a major program funded from the allowances of the ETS scheme, and where we fund projects also CCU related projects, renewable energy related projects, energy storage, energy intensive industries. And we're talking about TRL up to 8 pre-commercial development, and there we can fund a certain amount up to 60% of the difference between the conventional benchmark and the innovation fund project. And there's also the important process of common European interests that are particularly interested when we're talking about the global EU, the international EU scale, and they're based on strategic value chains, of which 2 are very relevant for CCU. One is on hydrogen production technologies, and the other one on low CO2 emission industries. So you have let's say a landscape that is supportive of CCU, and rightfully so, because, as I said before, those technologies are technically ready, some at higher tier level than others, and there is a need for a support to show their potential in order to be used directly for reducing CO2 emissions. They do require the majority of them. They do require a lot of renewable electricity, but at the same time, they will support this transition to more renewable energy systems by facilitating the storage of the energy and the transportation, as we've seen also from the talk of Jan. And importantly, CCU technologies, CCU fuels in occurrence can use existing infrastructure. We are talking about drop-in fuels where we don't need significant modifications of the infrastructure, of the distribution infrastructure or the refueling infrastructure. And what we need, and I guess you assumed that I would end up with a supportive framework that will create the market and will maintain the market. And to give a few examples, we are in a very complex policy context nowadays with the introduction of the European Green Deal and a lot of legislative packages that have been newly introduced or revised to be able to adapt to the more ambitious climate goals. And we're happy to see that CCU is taken up in the majority of them. In some ways, partly well taken up, partly not that well taken up, partly excluded. And I'm talking about the sustainable taxonomy, for example, or the majority of the ETS system. And what we need to do is that we should make sure that CCU is properly recognized under these legislative packages and in a consistent way. There are a lot of them that interrelate, and they can now set up the scene for a supportive framework for CCU, especially in areas where there are not also other alternatives, thinking about the refuel aviation, for example. So this part is quite important, and while the list is not exhaustive, this is a key area where we focus our work on. I'm leaving you with a small, let's say, fact sheet on who we are, with around 66 members, rather new as an association, founded in November 2017, but already reached the point where we consider from the Commission also the legitimate representative of the CCU industry. And we're happy to welcome everybody that wants to collaborate with us and to bring CCU to the place that it merits. Happy to answer any questions you have.